Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest in the Phase 3 Meet series. I'm delighted for this episode to be joined by Phill Robinson. Hi Phil, how you doing?
Good, I said very well, thank you.
Good,
How are you?
good. Yeah, no, fantastic. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. For those of you who don't know Phill, Phill has held multiple CEO and chairman roles at a variety of companies, including the likes of Salesforce, Iris Software, and Exact. And is also the founder of Boardwave, which we'll come to shortly, alongside a number of other chairman and advisory roles. So that's quite a history of very senior roles at huge organizations, Phil.
Yeah, they weren't always huge though. So Salesforce, when we started in Europe, was 7 or 8 people, and a big company in the US, but we were getting going in Europe, so it was small at the time. And obviously, it's gone on to be much bigger and more successful since then. So yeah, some big companies, but also some small companies too.
Fantastic. Why don't you tell us all about Boardwave? Because obviously it's a little bit different from kind of CEO roles and so on. And I think, I'm hoping our viewers were really interested to learn a lot more about Boardwave.
Yeah, sure. So it's something that I set up at the beginning of the year. I'm sort of retired from full-time work. I'm doing advisory work these days. But as part of my time at home, I was thinking about how could I give something back to the European software industry, which I've worked in for many years. And that's how Boardwave came about. And the idea was that we wanted to help Europe be more successful at building global leading software companies. I mean, why is it that, for instance, Silicon Valley is so successful building household names and we're not so good at it? So to give you an example, of the top 100 companies by valuation in the US, 36 are software companies, or they were until very recently. In Europe, it's 7, and in the UK, it's 1.
Wow.
So there's a big difference in terms of the impact that software has on the economy in the US versus over here in terms of productivity and growth. And so how could we help founders and CEOs of European software businesses build a better industry and build better companies? And we try to think about what was the difference between those two environments. And what people used to say was access to capital was the problem in Europe for software companies. I don't think that's the case anymore. There's lots of software chasing software deals. Sorry, lots of capital chasing software deals, and investors are available for people even in the current climate to help you build a software company. One of the other things that's a characteristic that's different between California and Europe is that in California, everyone lives within 40 miles of each other. It's a small space. So everybody sort of knows everybody else and they help each other. So they're much more willing than Europeans to share. And they nurture and help each other's their businesses and their ideas and new companies come along. So when I was CMO of Salesforce, I reckon there were probably 4 or 5 companies which were formed by executives that worked there at the time, subsequently. Good people, and they built software companies that have IPO'd for billions of dollars and are really successful businesses. And I thought, well, why couldn't we have those people in Europe? Well, actually, those people do exist in Europe. That experience is here. The capability is here. We're no more or less qualified than they are to build these companies, but we don't have the right environment. So we don't share ideas and best practice in Europe the way they do. So all this knowledge is sort of fragmented.
And do you feel that's one of the major reasons? Because I read a stat, I think it was on the Boardwave website actually, that only 2 of the most valuable tech companies in the world are based in Europe. I know you've just given the stats about top 100 companies and the tech companies within the top 100 in Europe and the UK, and the US, sorry, but only 2 of the top 30 in the UK, in Europe.
And that's the challenge. That's what we're trying to solve for. So, as I said, this knowledge and experience exists. It's always been around in Europe for 30 years. And it's just fragmented by distance, by geography, by culture, but also by language and then investor portfolio or subsector focus. I mean, you're particularly focused on payroll and HR and things like that. But all sorts of reasons why we don't share things. And so the idea of Boardwave is to collect all of that knowledge and experience in one place so we can access it to help each other do better at building great businesses. The idea is to build a community of the best software CEOs and leaders in Europe and let them share each other's knowledge and experience and ideas and best practice and mentor one another to success. And so that's how we started in sort of April time with a new website that we created. The first event was in September. We've now got 450 CEOs who are members of this community, all looking forward to the opportunity to share ideas with each other and help each other.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic initiative. I really do. I'm very privileged and proud to be one of those members, and I'm looking forward to the networking events. You touched upon obviously phase 3 in our specialism in HR, payroll, and finance, and obviously in your experience, in your past, you've held roles at the likes of Exact, obviously European kind of ERP, and Iris, which is certainly payroll and HR and kind of finance based. Where do you think that HR pay fin tech space is heading, and is one of is it one of the perhaps the subcategories within tech that a bit of a spotlight on at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for if you went back in maybe 5-10 years ago, people thought it was a bit of a sleepy place to be in the software industry, HR and payroll. It's compliance driven, and that market grows at the rate at which the GDP or the size of the population grows. But today, I think there's a huge opportunity around HR and payroll together. So the way that we go to work and the way that we think about work and our relationship with work has fundamentally changed since the pandemic, or during the pandemic and afterwards. So what we want every day from work is changing. We don't want to work 9 to 5 or 5 days a week. We might want to work from home. We might want to work in the office sometimes. We want a new deal, if you like, from coming to work. People talk about the Great Resignation, people becoming disenchanted with their current career or role and moving on, doing something different. So businesses have to respond to that. They have to inspire people in different ways, and leaders in those businesses have to inspire people in different ways. And so I think that represents a huge opportunity for the software industry to support a new style of working and a new way in which people want to engage with their employer. So it's more meaningful and more interesting and valuable for them as an experience. So, the old HR software that we used to have, which was about record keeping and maybe even talent management, needs to change to reflect the way that people want to work today.
So I often talk about within phase 3, certainly, and when I do other kind of events like this, people before profit. And I'd be interested to hear your views on how long you can, as you scale and as you grow, and as obviously that some of the roles you've held, can that be maintained, that mantra of people before profit? Or do you get to a stage, particularly when you have external investment into a business, where that kind of topsy-turvies and it's always profit before people, perhaps?
I think people before profit is an interesting idea. I think that people think about, I've worked for a number of private equity firms that have owned software companies that I've run. And they sort of have a reputation being, people call them asset strippers, or they'll talk about PE having a bad reputation of not being good at just looking for profit. But in the end, the ones I've worked with are growth investors, more than just ripping cost out and minimizing the benefits to the employees, as an example. They're much more interested in how can we invest in this business to make it grow and build a growth engine for this software company, because the best valuations in software are from growth. Well, profitability is also helpful, but growth is the more important characteristic. Businesses are valued on growth. And you'll only grow if A, you meet the needs of your customers, and B, you meet the needs of your employees, because software companies intrinsically are people-led businesses. There's no physical goods, there's no hardware, there's no supply chain to speak of. So it's about the people within the business being happy and supportive of your mission and supporting your customers' needs. So I think people before profit is really important. I think if you don't do that, actually, you won't have a successful business in the long run. And whether you're motivated by profit or not, you need to think about the people first.
Yeah, I think the current climate, in particular, in terms of the kind of talent acquisition struggles, the roundabout that we have, where one, jumping from one company to another, trying to find that space where it's more than, like you mentioned earlier, just the 9 to 5. They feel invested in the business. They feel, the footprint of the business is significantly more than just software, perhaps, and other external factors. So I think that's really interesting, actually. And what can we expect from Boardwave then, Phill, moving forward? You've touched upon why you set it up and where you hope it kind of leads, but do you think that Europe can rival the US anytime soon?
I think it's going to take a little while, but we need to support the next generation of software entrepreneurs and CEOs and founders to give them the confidence to continue to scale. Historically, what happens most often is somebody creates a new software company, they bring a product to market, they start to scale up, have decent revenue, maybe there's 20 or 30 million of revenue or ARR. And then somebody comes knocking, a strategic acquirer, most often from the US, comes by and say, we really like your business, we'd like to buy it. And actually, they don't have the confidence to continue the mission. And what they do is say, well, you know what, this valuation gives me the chance to be more secure with my family and pay for the kids' school fees if that's what they want to do, or, buy a big house, well, I don't know, whatever. And that's a meaningful change to their lives. And so they take that change and then finish the mission and let somebody else complete it for them. Yeah. And that's because they don't have the confidence to go further, because there's not examples sitting all around them of people that have gone the extra mile on this journey. And so you go to California, you live in Silicon Valley, and you're a guy that's got a software business with revenues of $20, $30 million. You look around and you look at Facebook and Google, and you look at Salesforce, for instance, and others, and there's loads of shining examples of mega success. Yeah. You wouldn't consider, selling out to a strategic acquirer at that point in your lifespan as a company, because that's not success. That's not success in Silicon Valley. And so you carry on, and you have the confidence to carry on, and you're supported and nurtured to carry on that journey to become a major corporation on a perhaps global basis. That's why there's more success there. So this sort of appetite for risk is a challenge for us, as well as connectivity of the people, which we need to give people the confidence that there's people around them and skills around them to help them on their journey. I've been using a great example recently. There's a business called Calibra in Belgium. And there's a guy called Felix that runs it. He started in his university bedroom in 2012. He now lives in New York, trying to take the business global. It has 200 million of ARR and a massive valuation from Sequoia Capital, which is a US VC. And he's bought a Boardwave because he wants help in getting to be $1 billion company. Who in Europe do you know, Phill, in Boardwave that can help me go on that journey? And that's what we're helping and supporting him with. At the same time, he can look back over his shoulder and go, well, actually, I've had a great success so far. Who can I help in this community that needs to get to the place where I'm at right now in my scale and growth? So everybody that's a member of Boardwave can be both supported and supporter, helper and helper. Yeah. So it's basically you get as much out of it, if you like, as you put into the community. But everybody can help everybody else, and I think that's a great thing.
It is, and like I said earlier, I think it's a fantastic initiative. I wish you all the best of luck with that. We are going to move on to the quick fire round, which is actually never really quick fire. I don't know why I even call it that, to be fair. But it's just a little bit more lighthearted and getting to let people know a little bit more about Phill Robinson rather than Phill Robinson's CEO experience. So just a few questions here. Phill, what's your favorite piece of everyday tech?
Well, that's a great question, because I'm sure people always answer it very similarly. But I like my mobile phone, which is an Apple phone. I bet a lot of people say the same thing. Yeah. The thing that I get the most value from in this phone is its combination of my earphones and my iPad and my laptop and my TV, and all sort of working together. It makes it more valuable than just being a phone. But I'm sure lots of other people said mobile phone.
Well, you've kind of by default answered my second question then as well already, which was Apple or Samsung. But clearly that's Apple as well.
It's funny because I've got a Samsung TV that plays Apple TV content. Yeah, so I guess it's both.
So have I, actually. I love the fact that I'm recording this on an iMac and my iPhone, and whenever my phone goes off, the face of
everything springs to life.
everything's ringing, and I'm like, how do I stop all of this from going? I've got my laptop there in front of me, the screen there, my phone there, everything. And my son's in here on his PS5 often in the study, and when someone calls me, it comes up on their screen, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, did so and so call you?" I'm like, "How do you know all of this?" So yeah, I need to maybe deconnect a little bit from Apple. Actually, I'm a bit too invested. I'm past the line of no return, I think, now.
Yeah, you're totally in over your head. There's no way you're ever getting away from that.
So what was your first job?
I was a trolley boy at Tesco's in Leicester.
Wow, did you enjoy that?
No, I think they got it wrong because there was a new shop opening, and you could apply on. It wasn't online. You had to go to the job centre in those days. But you could fill a form in, and it would say, "What roles do you want in the store and not want?" So you tick the ones you were interested in doing, cross the ones you didn't. And I think I ticked everything. I said, "I'm happy to do anything, but not trolley boy." And the one job they gave me was trolley boy. So they must have confused my ticks and crosses and thought all I wanted to do was be outside collecting trolleys, and that's what I did for 2 years.
Oh my goodness. Well,
it was cold and wet most of the time. I have to say, it's horrible.
People always talk about the first jobs, don't they, and say how it taught them this, it taught them that. My first job didn't teach me anything. I'll be honest. You know, I worked in you might remember Manweb, and was it Norweb or something? The electric and gas companies. I worked in customer services there, maybe 17 years old. Awful. Absolutely awful, dealing with everyone's complaints. The electric's not working. This, you've overcharged me. You've done this. You've done that. Horrendous. So there you go. Okay, next question. Favorite sports team? Are you a sports person?
No, I like all sports. I like all sports. I'm a runner and I swim and I spin a lot of the time. Favorite sports team is going to have to be Leicester City, I'm afraid. It's not a great season this year, unfortunately. Not doing too well, but of course, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've had lots more success than they've had in the whole of my lifetime. In fact, I went to the parade when they paraded the Premier League around the streets of Leicester with my mother at the time of 78, who's been a lifelong fan. Or, you know, she's like, I'm 70. I never thought I'd see the day when we won the Premier League, and we did. So yeah, Leicester City, born and bred.
Got to be one of the greatest sporting achievements of certainly of all time. I mean, was it 5,000 to 1 odds or something at the start of the season? Yeah. It just crazy.
Oh no, I think it was 40,000 to 1 or something. It was crazy numbers. Wow. Yeah, madness.
Amazing. Okay, and then final question, Phill. Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Oh my God.
There's a bit of the old Richard E. Grant about you, actually. Now that
I'll take that. I'll take that. That's fine. Richard E. Grant would be fine. Yeah, let's say that, because I have no idea. Really.
Richard E. Grant. Okay, fair enough.
We'll take Richard E. Grant.
There you go. Has nobody ever said that you look a little bit like him? Is that the first time you've heard that?
No, okay. But I don't mind. That's quite good.
It's actually, yeah, that's a big compliment, to be fair. So good. Okay, Phill, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with me today. I know you're super busy with Boardwave and doing fantastic work there. So I really appreciate your time. And hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Cheers.